This is obviously going to be recorded. I'm going to go over every single card in the new expansion, and let's jump into it. The first one is going to be, we're going to go over all of the classes in alphabetical order, and then we are going to put them on a tier list as to where I think they're going to be a class as a whole. So we'll just jump into the first one. Is going to be Demon Hunter, Dispose of Evidence. 0 mana, your hero gains 3 attack, choose a card in your hand and shuffle into your deck. I actually think of all the cards, this is one of the stronger Demon Hunter ones. Having a 0 mana deal 3 damage, even if it gets rid of a card, definitely is not bad, especially considering the fact that there is some synergy with some other cards in the Demon Hunter class. Like, obviously I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but the new weapon that draws you cards, this discards you cards, and they're probably in the mini set going to come out with more draw cards. So I think Dispose of Evidence has the potential to be really good. But with the current support, it's going to be mediocre at first. I mean, it's like strong mediocre, like B. Like if A's top, this is like B. It's like one below that. I guess we'll go stars, like 4-star, I guess. Next is Sinful Brand. Brand an enemy minion. Whenever it takes damage, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. I think that this is very interesting because it could synergize with a couple of different things. Multi-strike, there's one of the relics does like 2 instances of damage, so you could potentially do a decent amount of damage to the opponent that way. I'm not entirely, I mean, obviously it's also going to be kind of face-oriented. Demon Hunter has a lot of little tokens, so you could put this on a big minion and then hit it with a ton of little 1/1s. I think this has the potential to be really, really good. But in practice, I think it requires a decent amount of setup. But I actually think this card could be a great way of doing damage over the top. So I actually think that this card has the potential to be good. It's just going to have a deck built around it, and this is going to have to be like one of the main win conditions. Next, we have the Bibliomat. I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry. I think this card's really, really cool. The thing, I just made a tweet about this actually. I don't think this card itself is going to be insane. It's a 2 mana 4/4 and you lose a card, but I do think that getting this card in conjunction with the 2 mana Battlecry summon a random 2 cost, getting this randomly is gonna be nuts. It's one of those cards that's like fine on its own, but it's really gonna be strong when you like evolve into it or randomly generate it, so you get the stats without the Battlecry and just like a random class. But yeah, I think this card like on its own, mediocre. Yeah, again, it does have synergy with the weapon, which we're going to get to in like 2 things. So like there's some potential there. I just don't think there's enough draw support to make this card really that good. Next, we're going into the Relic. I think all the Relics are bad. This one is no exception. Deal 1 damage to random enemy minion twice. Improve your future relics. I mean, other than the draw one, this is just, well, no, actually, one of the other relics that summons minions is fine as well. But like, this one's just used to upgrade your future relics. Like, that's it. The relics are terrible. Like, there's no arguing for it. Even the good ones are still not even that good. This one, the Magnifying Glaive. After your hero attacks, draw until you have 3 cards. Like, this is the only main draw support that the deck really has. And like, because of that, I think Dispose of Evidence, as well as the 2 mana Bibliomite, whatever it's called, could potentially be good. But the problem is, like, if you don't get the weapon, there is no other support that it really has. I mean, yeah, Demon Hunter has a decent amount of draw just in general, so it might be fine. But I do not think that this one weapon is enough to make a class or a deck built around discarding cards. I don't think that this one weapon is going to be strong enough for that. Next, we have the Relic Vault. The next relic you play casts twice. This will either be really good with the draw one, or it'll actually potentially be good with the spirit one, summoning 2 1/1 spirits. I mean, if you pump them up enough, you could potentially get multiple like 5/5 spirits or something along those lines, which is pretty good. I think that the Relic Vault will make the relics at least playable. I just talked about the Relic of the Phantasms. I think this card's fine. I think it won't be good at the beginning, but after you ramp it up, 3 mana, 2 3/3s is okay. That's something that does exist in the game already if you like infuse it or whatever, or played a Naga while this is in your hand, Naga's Pride. Obviously, there are a couple of ways where this is like slightly stronger than some of those cards and has the potential to be even better, but early game, it's going to be worse. Like if you have to play this because this is your first relic and you play a 3 mana 1/1, it's just terrible. Like the only good relic early is the Relic of Extinction. to kill off a couple of tokens early, maybe into a more aggressive deck. Other than that, the other tokens playing them early are pretty bad. This legendary I think is interesting because of its death rattle. I think it's actually going to be better in death rattle Demon Hunter as just like a 4-mana 7/7 that you're gonna have in your hand and hopefully pull out and randomly summon, or randomly summon it off of Death Speaker Blackthorn or whatever his name is. But as an individual card, this card's not great unless you randomly pull it. Next is gonna be Relic of Dimensions. Draw 2 cards, reduce their cost by 1. I think this is the best potential relic, and if you have like a kind of bigger style deck with relics as well, you could potentially reduce their cost and get a lot of value out of it. But even then, it's just like worse Skull of Gul'dan. Like, yeah, draw 2 cards, reduce their cost by 1. Even if you cast a couple of relics and reduce their cost by 3, well, okay, it's worse, again, it's worse than Skull of Gul'dan and a lot of the other cards at the beginning, but once you ramp it up a ton, then it becomes good. But the problem is, are you going to get to the place where you're going to ramp them up a ton? Like, are you going to draw your relics consistently enough and or survive long enough? Like, it's just weird. The next one is Artificer. Battlecry, discover and cast a relic, infuse 5, cast all 3. I think this will be fairly easy to get off. I think that this is going to be one of the things that makes relics good as your late game bomb. So I mean, overall, judging all of the relics combined, the relic synergy, I think it's slow and kind of weak, but has the potential for some pretty cool payoff in the late game if you can get to that point, if you can survive. So it has to be like a control deck with a couple of little things maybe to keep you alive, but for the most part big in control, and then curve into maybe an Artificer on 8 with like a ton of relics. That could potentially be really good. Going into Druid, broken. I mean, you basically get to mana cheat and discover a card, and its nature, which has synergy with a lot of other things. This is just an absolutely broken card. Nature, natural causes, deal 2 damage, summon a 2/2 tramp. That card was fine. I played it a little bit in a 40-card Druid deck that revolved around ramp and nature. It actually turned out to be pretty good at helping you stay alive early game while also developing a little bit of pressure on the board, as well as also being viable late game. Not like late game, but late game after you play the dragon, where that synergizes with nature spells. And Relic Demon Hunter will be good in the future if they add new cards for generating relics. That's true. If they add like a 4-cost or a 1-cost relic, obviously the 1-cost relic would have to be really, really bad. But in like the mini set or something else like draw you a relic or make your relics cheaper or something like Librams did, I think relics have the potential to be good. They just need a little bit more help. Hedge Maze. I didn't see it played that much when I was in theory crafting, but obviously because of the ramp and the really, really big, insane death rattle and the death rattle synergies, this card will be good. I just think that normal ramp Druid is just already strong enough as it is. Like, if this card makes ramp Druid even stronger, I mean, Druid's already like S tier in my opinion. Spoiler alert, I can just put this in the godlike tier just right off the bat. Druid's absolutely nuts from what I saw in the theory crafting stream, so it's going to be very good. And Hedge Maze will be good in some different instances, maybe get some big death rattles off. I definitely see it having a place, but I don't know if it like replaces anything in normal, like just ramp Druid. Plot of Sin, summon 2/2/2 treants, infuse 5, summon 2 5/5 treants instead. I actually like this because like it's basically similar to the relics, except I think it's a little bit easier to get 2 5/5s out earlier. Like, think about it. If you're going aggro, like token Demon Hunter, not Demon Hunter, sorry, Druid, you're gonna be able to infuse 5 fairly early, but it needs to be in your hand when it happens. So I think as far as token Druid cards go, this one's mediocre, because if you don't have it in your starting hand, it's a little bit weak, but it definitely has a lot of upside and will be run in a lot of the token Druid decks. This card's just broken. I don't know why the fuck they printed this. Druid already had plenty of ramp and draw, and now they give it ramp and draw and a body in the same card, and like its only weakness was the fact that it didn't really have a board while it was ramping and drawing, at least at first. But now, admittedly small, they also get to combat like its biggest weakness of not having a board super early. So like this is actually like one of the best cards printed this expansion. It blows my mind that they printed something like this. Honestly, if this was like a 4-mana 1/1, do this, fine. 4 mana 2/2, maybe, so it can't necessarily trade up into like a 4/3 or 3/3 minion. It should have been like a 2/2 or something. But I think, I mean, I saw this card run so many times. In all my Theorycraft ideas, I put this in like every single Druid deck. Maybe I'm overhyping it a little bit because I just hate Druid. And maybe this isn't like S God tier, it's just like A tier. But I don't think it's ever going to be lower than A tier. It's so good. And yeah, Druid does always feel broken. But not like, hasn't always felt broken. I feel like there have been times when Druids felt kind of weak. It's just when it feels strong because of the game plan that it has to just ramp up, it feels ridiculously strong. There's like no middle ground. It's either ridiculously strong or it feels really weak because you don't have the ramp and the survivability to get to late game. But they've had ramp and survivability for so long that it just feels like they've been broken forever. Death Blossom Whomper. Death Rattle, Battle Cry, draw a Death Rattle minion and gain its Death Rattle. This card's pretty decent. I mean, obviously it's a 6 mana 7/6, which is solid stats in a deck that can ramp up very quickly. Like, think about it. Turn 4, you play this. Turn 5, you can play this and then draw a big Death Rattle. Not to mention all the good Death Rattles in the deck right now. Or in the game right now. Do you think they should have moved Innervate or Nourish to Wild knowing they had this card in design? I mean, probably something. I would have liked to have it lose a little bit of ramp, but at the same time, like, would it have hurt the class too much? I don't know, because I don't want Druid to die. I do think it has some cool, interesting stuff, and I like ramp in general. I just don't like when ramp is way too strong. Sorry I'm not reading chat as much as I usually am, but I'm just going through all the cards. Next is Topiary, the Shrub Gazer, I don't know. I would just like to say right now, the Whelp counts as a Whelp, okay? So if you have a Nyxia out there, this Whelp makes a Nyxia immune. So if you play a Nyxia, trade it all over 2/1 Whelps, and then play a Nature spell, a Nyxia regains the immunity and can trade into a minion and not take damage, which makes a Nyxia significantly stronger in Druid in a class that already runs it. And it's a dragon, which synergizes with Kazakusan. Yes, there's the Steam Cleaner, and I'll get into that in a little bit about the whole Kazakusan thing. This just is, in general, a really good card, because a lot of nature spells, I mean, cheap nature spell, not really usable, but nature spell for your big late game spells as well. So yeah, overall, it just is, this card was really solid. And it's, I mean, the 7 mana 5/5 feels a little bit weak, so the turn you play it, it's not great. I mean, Scale Vinixia on 7's definitely better, but if you play this a little bit later and then go like Innervate into a couple of nature spells, this can snowball really, really hard. If Demon Hunter is weak, it means it's terribly weak. And if it's good, Demon Hunter's OP. Yeah, I feel like that's the case as well. I feel like that's not the case for some classes though. Like, obviously Hunter has been strong for a while and it feels, no, I guess Quest Hunter, but I never feel like it's like ridiculously broken. Sometimes I think it's unfun, like Quest Hunter's definitely super unfun to play against, and Face Hunter can be really fast, but like, I always feel like in that class I have a chance, whereas into Druid, I'm like, oh, well, he got Guff, I literally just lose the game, or he got a ramp card, I lose the game. I don't know. Maybe it's this just personal opinion, and obviously people have different perceptions on how strong classes are, whether it be personal biases or whatever. I also think that, like, okay, I was gonna say any of the other classes, but no, I feel like actually even Hunter, all of the classes, if they feel really strong, feel like too strong, and that's just the nature of us seeing the, like, most negative thing, or us remembering the most negative things more than the, like, positive things. Anyway, Nightshade Bud. This card's fine. I was actually kind of underwhelmed with it. I mean, it's a nature spell, which is nice, and discovering a spell or a minion from your deck and casting it, you can still get some decent value, but I mean, it was fine. It was okay. Like, it definitely wasn't bad. It was good. It was just a little bit less powerful than I thought it was going to be, but still solid. Sicily, this was really good. Being able to draw a minion and reduce its cost by 8 while also being an 8/8 taunt minion for 8 was solid, and it synergized really well with this because it would allow me to draw another minion and reduce its cost immediately. Like, it just gave me so much extra draw. This card turned out to be quite the MVP. And start of the expansion, oh yeah, start of the expansion, aggro decks will always seem stronger. Like, Face Hunter is going to feel really strong right at the beginning because people are optimizing control decks, and until they're optimized, aggro decks will dominate. Convoke of Spirits was just ridiculous. I mean, you know how ridiculous Rune of the Archmage could be, and Box of Yogg-Saron, Puzzle Box, whatever it was called, Puzzle Box, that card. You know how ridiculous those were. I think this is better though. Well, okay, no. I think the Mage one's better if your opponent has a big board, because you have a lot of removal in Mage. But if you're trying to play something proactive and you're trying to build your own board or pump up your own board, this card's really, really, really good most of the time. Like if you have a board advantage, this will help you win the game a lot quicker. Next, going into Hunter, I think Hunter, a 1 mana, 1/1 death rattle summon a 2/1 bat. This is just really, really good in general because it helps with infuse. The overall stats are pretty decent. The fact that it has death rattle means it's a sticky minion. You like, even if you remove it once, you have to be able to remove it a second time. And having a 2/1 summoned afterwards means it can trade into something. Like, just imagine if there's a 1 mana. Like, this is literally just the Murloc Tidehunter, the 2 mana 2/1 summon a 1/1, except it's a death rattle instead of a battle cry, so it's a little bit worse. But like, it's not enough to make it a whole mana cheaper, and the bat is going to be a beast, which could have some potential synergies. Overall, I think this card is quite solid as a 1-drop for Hunter. Next, the Castle of Kennels. Give a friendly minion +2 attack. If it's a beast, give it rush. Like, that's why the bat being a beast is somewhat important, but I think this card's pretty underwhelming, honestly. Of all the locations, I think this is like one of the, if not the worst one. So I'm just going to move on. Frenzied Fangs. I actually like this card. It's pretty easy to frenzy 3 at the beginning of the game with Hunter, especially with like the baddie guest. If you play this turn 3 for 2 3/3s, that's just solid. Like it's pretty, again, it's fairly easy to trigger as well. I was wrong about infuse cards being according to Theorycraft. It seems pretty doable for most infuses. Yeah. Most of the infuses were a lot more doable than I thought they were gonna be. This is Spirit Poacher. Next, it's a 2 mana 2/2 summon a random dormant Wildsteed. First of all, other than the Fox Spirit, the other two are pretty solid value, right? Like this one, it's a 3/1, which is technically worse than the Pelican. So the Pelican being the 4/1 dormant for 1 turn, but it's still solid. And then the other two are just good in general. I thought this was a 2 mana 1/1 card that summoned this. The fact that it's a 2 mana 2/2 means that it itself is pretty solid on board, and it gets you Wild Seeds, and Wild Seeds have cool synergies with other cards like the Wild Seed Spirits. And they're just really strong in general. Like eventually this becoming a 2/5 taunt after like 2 turns is solid. Like it protects you, it's good stats, a 5/4 that gives you a 4/2 wild bow. First of all, it does say a 4/2 great bow, so I am disappointed flavor wise that this says Stag Point wild bow. But moving past that, it should be the Stag Point great bow. Anyway, moving on. I think that if you get too many of these Wild Steeds in a row, it might end up being a little bit lame. But if they're spaced out fairly well, it'll be strong. These cards look like they're strengthening Hunter's early curve. That's true. I think Hunter's biggest issue is its early curve right now. And it's why Big Beast Hunter is solid, because obviously Hunter's just strong in general with a hero power that does 2 damage. Tavish is really good, and the big beasts are all good. But now that you're curving out a little bit better in the early game, like I could see you easily running a 40 card deck with a decent number of these like dormant Wild Steed cards to keep you alive early, and then curving into big beasts later on. Is it me or is your mic cutting in and out? I don't think my mic is cutting in and out. It doesn't say so on the little like volume coverage thing. Next is Stag Charge, deal 3 damage. I'm in a random dormant Wild Seed. It's just a solid card. The Wild Seeds, like I said, are all good. Deal 3 damage. It can be to anything, so it can go face at times. And I think there should be maybe 1 or 2 more Wild Seed synergy cards, and they will probably do that in the mini set. So I'm in 2 different dormant Wild Seeds, and they like unlock 1 turn sooner each. All of the ones unlock 1 turn sooner, so that synergizes really well with like Aralon. I don't know how to say his name. I'm gonna mispronounce some of these names, I apologize. But you do this 1 turn, and then the following turn you can play Wild Spirits, or if it's turn 8 you can play both in the same turn and just like cheese out a ton of different things. It's gonna be really, this is quite a solid card with the mana cheat. Stonebound Gargon was pretty solid. The rush allowing you to do cleave damage and it being a beast was pretty solid, actually. Like, I did not think this card was going to be good, but then I had it used against me once or twice, and it was effective in clearing off the board. Infusing 3, like I already said, is pretty easy to do. So if you're going against an aggressive deck, this can completely shut them down, as well as allow you to keep a minion on the board, unless they position well. So I think this card is surprisingly decent, will be like really good in Arena, will be fine in Standard, especially if you're in like a 40 card or a Highlander Hunter deck where you want a little bit of extra removal. Nothing crazy, but still decent. Next is going to be Erlon, which I think is insanely strong. Being able to get every single wild seed and be a 5-mana 4/5, which isn't even like terrible stats. They're not premium stats. Like obviously a 5-mana 5/5 is better, but getting 3 extra dormant wild seeds that are all pretty solid and potentially comboing with a wild seed or wild spirits could be just really strong. I think this card is going to be one of the most played Hunter legendaries. It could just be thrown into most Hunter decks and see decent success. Huntsman, Eltimore, really strong. Again, the infuse is a lot easier to finish off than I thought. Worst case scenario, it's a 7-mana, get 2 animal companions because you're usually going to infuse at least 4. And if you get all 8, then it's just really good because the infused things are basically all just animal companions. You get some charge, you get a taunt, you get some pump. It's just a good card, a good late game bomb for Hunter. I don't think collateral damage is that good. Deal 6 damage to 3 random enemy minions. Excess damage hits the enemy hero. I mean, it's fine. I just think for 8 mana, it's not going to do nearly enough damage. Like, think about it. Flame Strike, yeah, it doesn't do damage, but it's, like, actually good board wipe. Now we're moving on to Mage. Suspicious Alchemist. I did not think this card was going to be that good at the beginning, because I was like, what if somebody just, like, picks the right card and they get another card in their hand and they didn't even have to play anything? But let's just assume they only get it right like 50% of the time because you play mind games with them. You can usually eliminate one bad option and then it's choosing between the 2, and you can get it right like 60-50% of the time. But that still means like about 40-ish% of the time they're wrong and you get a card and they get nothing, and it's a 1-mana 1/3. So I will admit, I think I underestimated this card at first. In Theorycraft, when I played against it, it was pretty decent. I guessed it right like 5 out of the 7 times it was played, but people will get better at using this card as time goes on. Next is Frozen Touch. Solid card. Infuse 3 is pretty good in a deck that can summon a ton of skeletons. Spooky, scary skeletons are definitely going to be at least a viable deck, and the developers said that if it's not very strong, they will buff it because they want that archetype to be strong. And this card did pretty well in it. It's good direct damage. The infuse, again, is pretty easy to do, and then you can just do 3 more damage. Like, basically, if you have it infused in your hand already, you get essentially like a fireball. And if you time it correctly and have multiple minions on the board and you can trade in, like, you could do 6, 9, maybe even 12 damage in a single turn with this card. If you have enough cards on the board and some setup, I guess. So, pretty solid. Well, okay, maybe not 12, but 6 or 9 damage pretty easily. Wireless 2 degenerate for me? Okay, I mean, it's up to you again. It's an AoE piercing shot for 8. It may have points where you win right on the edge against an opponent's board of low health minions, like Onyxia. Could pull out some unlucky lethals. I mean, yeah, but at the end of the day, it's 8 mana. Hunters shouldn't really be getting to 8 mana most of the time anyway. And if you're playing against Onyxia, what if one of those piercing shots hits Onyxia? Then you just miss some of the damage. Like, yeah, it will have times where it's good, but for 8 mana, I mean, I don't know. And it's random. Like, if your opponent plays around it even just a little bit, it feels like it could be kind of bad. I don't know. It feels mediocre to me. Like, it could be a great top-end finisher. I just don't know what kind of deck you would put it in with Hunter, except maybe Highlander. Next is going to be Solid Alibi. Until your next turn, your hero can take only 1 damage at a time. This card is really good at helping you survive for 2 mana, especially. You can just like toss it at the end of a turn for 2 mana. It's like, oh shoot, should I ping or like become invulnerable? Do this. This plays around almost everything. Also, this is really, really important. The giveaway is going to be a mega bundle at about 5. Sire Nathrius, dealing the damage amongst enemies, doesn't do it 1 at a time. It does all of the damage at once. It'll do like, you know, 10 damage all at once. So against like Cariel, Lightforged Cariel, it'll do half damage. And against the Solid Alibi, it'll only do 1 damage. So if you play it before you think they're going to play the Sire Nathrius, it can completely shut them down. Next, the Sanctum. This was basically like the bread and butter of the spooky scary skeletons deck. The only problem with it is it doesn't really do anything if your opponent plays nothing. So when I played against Ramp Druid, which was almost like 50% of all of my games in the Theorycraft, so many people played Ramp Druid. They didn't really play that many minions until they played a ton of minions. So a lot of the time, if you're playing against a slow deck, you have to freeze your own stuff, which just sucks. But if you're playing against something a little bit more aggressive or even tempo or mid-rangey, this is going to be very, very good. But against some decks, this card felt really bad. Vengeful Visage. Secret. After an enemy minion attacks your hero, summon a copy but attacking the enemy hero. This card's fine. I didn't actually play it, but I think that it could be an interesting secret, and I think that secret synergies across the board in neutral and mage a little bit got some pretty cool stuff, so I think that this card has the potential to be really good. Yeah, you can freeze your own minions. It just says freeze a minion. It just, like, it feels bad to do that sometimes. Like, it feels bad to wind chill your own minion in Shaman to draw a card, but, like, sometimes you just wind chill a totem and it's fine. But there's not really like a free just token to freeze in Mage. Like, you have to play a minion and then freeze it. It just feels worse. Chatty Bartender. At the end of your turn, if you control a secret, deal 2 damage to all enemies. So basically, you can play the card that makes the next secret you play free, then like not doing anything turn 3, then play that and the secret at the same time. Basically consecrate the entire board on your opponent's side while also protecting the 4/4 a little bit. Very solid card if you were in Secret. Again, I think Secret synergies in Mage look pretty solid. Cold Case, gaining 4 armor and 2/2 skeletons that do damage. Just overall a pretty efficient card. Nothing crazy, but still pretty solid. Orion, this is the card whenever a friendly secret is revealed, cast a different Mage secret and gain 2. I think this card's solid. Basically, you can play this in like Counterspell and or Explosive Runes to protect him. Make sure he almost always triggers at least once. And because he keeps recasting secrets, the Chatty Bartender will always be active if you're able to play both of them. So, it's just a really, really good card if Secret Mage turns out to be good. Next is Deathborn. Honestly, a little underwhelming. Kind of. One second. When I say underwhelming, let me explain. Dealing 2 damage to the board for 6 mana is just really weak, especially considering it doesn't freeze the board. So like Blizzard, I would say as a removal card is better. So like if you get to that stage of the game, 2 damage isn't a lot. But the volatile skeletons, their death rattles, if they die during Deathborn, if those death rattles kill a minion, they count as dying to Deathborn. I would just like to make this very clear. Deathborn summons the 2/2 skeletons after death rattles trigger. So if there's a death rattle that does damage and it kills another minion, it will count as something for Deathborn, which does make the card a little bit better, especially if you kill off a lot of your own spooky, scary skeletons. But again, on its own, it feels a little bit weak. And if you're playing against, like, again, Ramp Druid, which was what most of the games I was playing against were, unless they just for some reason play Scale of Onyxia on an empty board or Onyxia on an empty board and don't trade in all of their whelps, this just felt really weak, just against Druid. And I guess maybe that's why I feel like this card isn't very strong. Against Imp Warlock, it felt really good to coin out on 5 and just wipe everything. So there are definitely spaces where this will be good. I think the card overall is good. I'm just a little bit biased because of the Druid matchups. Hear Me Out, Deathborn, and Explosive Sheep. That could actually be a really sick combo. But again, that'll cost 8 mana. So 8 mana to do 4 damage. Feels a little bit weird, but definitely not bad. Next, we're going on to Kel'Thuzad, the Inevitable. Honestly, just solid. I mean, it's a great late game bomb. No other way to put it. If you're able to get a lot of skeletons, it's really, really good. If you draw it early or you don't get skeletons, it's a little bit bad, but that's the nature of a card like this that basically just revolves around one specific strategy. So yeah, if the strategy hits, it'll be really, really, really good. It'll be really good. I only ever watch Igor to be fair. You're going to start streaming. Don't see why not, mate. You're good enough. I mean, yeah, if you want to stream, go ahead. Just everybody to have a good time, man. Streaming's for fun, and sometimes you get to pop off and get super lucky like me, and after you put a lot of like time into it. But streaming was definitely fun when I just did it at the beginning. I was gonna play the games anyway. Nice to have a little community. Anyway, promotion. Give a Silverhand Recruit +3/+3. I mean, this is a fine card. I don't know how good Dude Paladin will be, but like, imagine just hero powering and then the next turn making it a 4/4 and then hero powering again, and you basically get 4/4 stats turn 3 attack of which have charge or rush depending on what you trade into. Like, it's just good, especially if Dude Paladin turns out to be solid. Next is Sinful Sous Chef, sorry, not Seuss. It's not Doctor over here, not Dr. Seuss. Anyway, Death Rattle will get 2 Silverhand Recruits in your hand, especially after playing this turn 1. It dies. Play a 1-mana Silverhand Recruit and this turn 2 a 4/4. It's just solid in general, and I think that this is going to be a very good card with the Silverhand Recruit synergies and stuff. What do you think about Secrets and Rogue? I will get to that point, but overall, spoiler alert, absolute dog shit. Going on to Great Hall, set a minion's attack and health to 3. This is great to help you maybe get a little bit of extra damage with the Silverhand Recruit, but is also a great removal card. Well, like, soft removal where you could get rid of a giant minion, like making a Nixia go from an 8/8 to a 3/3. Huge difference. Obviously, the rush at the beginning could be rough, but after that, making it a 3/3 means that it's a lot easier to deal with, or if they play like a taunt minion or something, it's just a solid card. I think this card's pretty good. It can be used aggressively and defensively. This card was surprisingly good as well. 3-mana 2/4 taunt that discovers you a card. I mean, the fact that it had taunt, I guess I didn't read that the first time that I read this card. How are you? I'm doing really, really well. Thank you. I didn't see the taunt at first, but because it has taunt, it actually keeps you alive and can stop against some aggro decks at least a little bit, which is really, really helpful. But yeah, all you have to do for the giveaway, by the way, is just comment, and then eventually you'll be entered here, and then I'll do, oh wait, you're still eligible. He was the one that got the example one. Also, we're gonna do the tier list in a second. Anyway, yeah, all you gotta do is chat. This card ended up being a lot better than I thought it was gonna be. Like, nothing broken, but definitely solid. Definitely runnable in a pure paladin. Service Bell, discover a class card from your deck and draw all copies of it. I don't exactly know how you get more than 2 copies of something in your deck. Unless you have like, yeah, I don't know how exactly you would do it. Thank you so much for the follow, Soft. Thank you. But definitely solid. Like, it's a 3-mana, discover a card, discover the card you want to draw, and then draw 2. Like, that's just good. It's basically Moonlight Guidance. No, Moonlight Guidance makes a copy. So I guess it's a little bit worse than Moonlight Guidance. But if you're able to get an extra copy of a card, you can, and you put it into your deck, you can easily get another copy of it just drawn immediately. Next is the Steward of Stewards. Steward the Steward. This card was fine. I mean, if you're going Dude Paladin, the 3/3 stats do snowball over time. Like, it's just every time you hero power, you're summoning a 4/4 if they kill it off, which is pretty all right. Like, definitely not bad. It's a good card. I don't think it's like broken, but I think it's better than the dragon version they had like 3 years ago that gave +3/+3 and this death rattle to the next dragon you played. So I think this card's good, especially in a Dude Paladin. Buffet Biggin. This card was way better than I thought it was going to be as well. Getting 2 Silverhand Recruits with Infuse 3, which again is very easy to trigger, especially if you're summoning dudes and you're playing fairly aggressively. Very easy to trigger. Next thing you know, this is a 4-mana 6/6 with like a decent amount of those stats having Divine Shield. No, not a 6/6, because the Silverhand Recruit has attack itself. It's a 4-mana 8/6 with a decent amount of it having Divine Shield and some dude synergy. So like if you have the Steward or promotion, you can make him even bigger. Like, this card was really good, and I only played against 2 paladins. One paladin coined this out turn 3 and then played something else to pump up his Silverhand Recruits, and he just won the game off of it. I think it was D-Money that just popped off with a Buffet Biggin on turn 3. It's super good. Elitist Snob. I mean, this card's just solid if you're in a pure paladin. Like, Divine Shield, Lifesteal, Rush, and Taunt, all very solid stuff to keep you alive against more aggressive things. And even if it's not aggressive, just playing a 5-mana 3/4 Divine Shield, Taunt, Lifesteal, and just having it on the board is not bad. Next is Divine Toll. Shoot 5 rays at random minions. They give friendly minions +2/+2 and deal 2 damage to enemy minions. I think this card's a cool design, but for 7 mana, especially if it like hits enemy minions and they have more than 2 HP, like I could see this card because of the randomness not being that good. But I also see this card, if it were like at 6 mana, being too good. So I just feel like something in this just feels a little bit weird. It is a holy spell, so it does have some synergy with like the holy stuff, and maybe you could reduce its cost with Cariel, actually, the one that rushes in. So like there's a way where this is good, but I don't know. It's a good late game card, especially if you have some minions out there, I guess. But I think at 7 mana, it's a little bit slow. 7 mana could give a minion 10/10. I mean, that's true. If there's only like 1 minion on the board, or you trade in and set up, like it could be really, really strong because it could also have like charge. But think about it, like you have this or 5 mana Blessing of Authority on the minion you want. Slightly less stats, but it's guaranteed. Like I don't know. I feel like if I had to choose between this or like Blessing of Authority, I'd choose Blessing of Authority a lot of the time. Yes, this one can go face immediately, which is definitely beneficial, but I don't know. It just feels like it's a little bit slow and clunky at 7 mana, especially considering I think some of the faster style, like, okay, if you're thinking about this versus like Scale of Onyxia, yes, you could pump up 10 HP, but then Scale of Onyxia does 14 and gets you a whole board of minions after you trade in. Like, and you're able to ramp into Scale of Onyxia faster in Druid, so it's basically like a 6 mana spell, the equivalent in like a Druid deck. I don't know, I just feel like for 7 mana it feels slow. That's just my opinion, I might be wrong about it. The Countess, awesome card, love Pure Paladin, love the idea of no neutral cards and getting a ton of cool stuff. The legendaries you discover can be really, really good and occasionally kind of bad, so you do have to worry about that a little bit, but pretty cool. Next is going to be the Suspicious Usher. Wait, what? 3 random legendaries is so RNG, but you get to discover them, so they're not just random, right? You get to discover the legendary, so you have 3 chances at it being at least somewhat decent. And again, sometimes they'll be bad, but because you have 3 chances, you'll usually get something at least serviceable, if not good. Suspicious Usher is basically the Mage one, except it's discover a legendary minion, not just like a spell. And yeah, I think this card's fine for the same reason the Mage card is fine. I think that once people get better at playing mind games with it, like it'll have ups and downs, right? At the beginning, it'll be kind of bad, right? At the beginning, people will just pick the best cards. People will know what the best card is. They'll get the correct guess. But then people will start playing mind games, and there'll be a time before the like readers learn the mind games the people are playing, and then they'll catch up, and then it'll become like a pretty decent card, I think. But there's gonna be a wave where this is like, it starts off kind of mid, then becomes good, and then becomes, you know, just a solid card. The giveaway is just chat, and I'll pick somebody at the end of the stream. Next, the Light It Burns. 1 mana, deal damage to a minion equal to its attack. Actually extremely strong. A lot of cases, this card just became like a 1 mana kill a giant minion, because there are a lot of like 8/8s, right? 8/8s or like the 7/6 or any number of things. This is just very, very good at killing off 1 big minion. So pretty good. I think, yeah, it's solid. Next is Mysterious Visitor. Reduce the cost of cards copied from your opponent by 2. Solid card. I mean, it's 2 mana, 2/3, so you can play it for tempo if absolutely needed if you're playing into something aggressive. But if you're playing into something that's not aggressive and you're able to steal some cards from them, you get a lot of value from this as well. This with like Copycat, this with the new card, this with the 1 mana 1/1, all very, very solid stuff. But yeah, I think that this is going to be, wait, the new expansion dropped? I've been away for a while. The new expansion is going to drop on August 2nd, so we're going over all the cards. Cathedral of Atonement. Turned out to be quite strong, actually. I was very pleased with this card. Well, I had it played against me twice, and both times I did well. One time I won, one time I lost, and that's because they got 2 cathedrals out and pumped up minions just like a ton. You think this is a 2-star card? I think that YouTube is behind me by like a minute for some reason, even though I have it set to like 10 seconds. But I don't know, I think this card is solid. Maybe this is because I saw a couple minions get really big and it was a small sample size. Overall, I think it's actually one of the lesser locations. I think it's definitely better than like the Hunter one, but like would I put it ahead of... Actually, I don't know. I'd say that it's a pretty average location, actually. I don't think it's bad. Maybe it's a little below average, but it's definitely not bad, I don't think. Identity Theft. Also, it's not a spell, so you can put it into a like Shadow Priest and do more damage that way. Identity Theft, that's the Thief card. Discover a copy of a card in your opponent's hand and deck, so you get a little bit of hand and deck information, which is nice. Steal 2 cards for 3 mana. And then when you combo it with the legendary, not this one, my bad. We'll skip to this one real quick for just a second. If you combo with the Harvester of Envy, let's just say you're able to play like their Mutanus before they're able to play the Mutanus, and then you steal it. Pretty solid. Pelagos. Sorry. After you cast a spell on a friendly minion, set its attack and health to the higher of the 2. Very, very, very good stuff, especially when comboed with the location. You can pump up a minion's attack a decent amount. Oops, I didn't mean to press the X button. And then you could set its health equal to that, or you can have a high health minion and then pump its attack, like Pelagos itself. You can play that and then like a cheap little spell, make him a 6/6, and then pump him up +2/+1. And the next thing you know, turn like 3 or 4, you got an 8/7 or something like that. It's really, really good. Or has the potential to be really good if you combo it well. And yeah, don't craft anything right away, and don't craft anything right now because a new expansion's coming out. Wait a little bit. This is what the whale streamers are for. You guys get to see what's good and bad like a little bit early, and then you can craft stuff based on playstyle and whether or not you think something's strong. Harvester of Envy, I mean, it's a cool card and can definitely mess with the opponent quite a bit, but it definitely requires some setup. So it requires some setup, whether it be stealing cards, obviously you have to do that, but then hopefully reducing the cost of those cards so you can maybe get extra value out of the Harvester. I mean, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be an annoying card, but I don't think it's gonna be like S tier or anything. Boone of the Ascended. This card was freaking nuts, okay? I'd see this card get played on like this the following turn, because I obviously couldn't kill a 1/6. He plays it on this, makes an 8/8, and then gets another 8/8 turn 4 with taunt. It was really, really good. So with the correct setup, this card could be crazy strong. You think Thief Priest will be really weak? I do too. I think it'll probably be like an extra little thing, like melded into a more control priest. Partner in Crime, Battlecry, summon a copy of this at the end of your turn. This is what Pelagos, this is the bread and butter, right? You can pump it up and make it a big minion, or use the location on this, and even if you just make it like a 4/6, you get another copy of a 4/6 the following turn. If you played the location turn 3 into this turn 4, get 2 4/6s, not too shabby, and you drew a card. So overall, that, especially considering you could also maybe pump it up in other ways, very, very strong stuff. Clean the Scene, solid, good removal, has the potential to be insane removal. Door of Shadows. Oh, we're getting to Rogue. This is when we start to get to the doo-doo water. Honestly, I could skip over basically everything here and just say bad. This card, it's fine. This card, it's bad. Like, draw cards. If your opponent plays a spell, they can play around it. Kidnap, actually awful. This is one of those cards that every time I played this card, my opinion of it got worse and worse. At first, I thought the card might be decent, and it just got worse and worse. Serrated Bone Spike is actually good. Potentially 3 damage for free. The location's really good if you have like a good miracle build going. You could get this off and the legendary, and Sticky Situations is good as well. Ghastly Gravedigger, actually pretty fine. I think this card was a little bit underwhelming, but definitely not bad. Especially if they like play around your secret, and then you punish them for playing around your secret by making them lose a card. It was solid. It just didn't really fit in like the miracle rogue I was trying to build. And Secret Rogue is too weak. So like, even though this card's strong, Secret Rogue can't support it. Also, the legendary for Secret Rogue, actually doo-doo water. Like, you're maybe gonna get one more trigger out of this, if that. The Necrolord, this was a decent card. I will admit, this card did pop off a little bit at times. But like, the big problem with this is if they play like one taunt or they run Rustdrop Viper, your whole win condition is just over. But yeah, Rogue kind of got wrecked this one. Private Eye is good. It can draw you a card, essentially draw you a card, thin out your deck by casting secrets, especially with a combo if you coin it out turn 3. Has the potential to be really good, but it's not really great. Next, we're going to Shaman. Evolved Shaman's going to be so strong. Infuse 4, which is not that hard. Transform all friendly minions into ones that cost 2 or more. Like, this is Revolve on steroids. This is Revolve on crack cocaine, going absolutely freaking bonkers, okay? This is nuts. This card is one of the best cards that is in the expansion. No doubt about it. It is what makes Evolved Shaman probably one of the best cards, or best classes, or has the potential to be a good one. Muck Pools. You play this turn 1, you play the 2-mana 1/1 that summons next to True Drop, then transform it into a 3-drop. Just very good curve out. 1-mana location's never bad. Carving Chisel. I actually was pretty surprised with Totem Shaman. I don't think it's necessarily like super good, but I think that with this card and a couple of the other totem supports, it has the potential to be pretty decent. Like, I don't think it's gonna be meta, but especially in like Wild, you could play this in like an Even Shaman. I mean, I don't know a lot about Wild, I'm gonna be honest, but I do know Even Shaman was something that existed for at least a bit. So I think that could be good. And just in general, I think it has a little bit of totem support that could make it good. Flood the board with totems, play Bloodlust for some burst damage, could be solid. And it's after your hero attacks, you basically just get 3 free totems. It's really, really strong. Next is Party Favor. At the end of your turn, summon a random basic totem, infuse 2, summon 2 instead. Again, more totems, more totems. Pretty easy to infuse twice. Primordial Wave, insane card, good for evolving your minions and also getting rid of big minions on the opponent's side of the board. Obviously, you can low roll sometimes, but more times than not, it will buff your board and make your opponent's board significantly worse. Baroness Vosh, so good. Oh my god. Dude, the amount of evolve synergies that are in this deck, you play this, you have like 2 different 1-mana evolve cards that you can combo with this turn 4 or turn 5, or with the coin. Obviously, turn 4. You have the Muck Pools, which is a location, so you could potentially do it on the same turn. You do this on turn 4. Like, this card is just an insanely good legendary. Next is the Crude Caretaker. Again, insane. You get a 5-mana card and then a 3/5 taunt. Again, if you have the location out, it can snowball really, really, really hard, really well. Next, for the rest of the game, your totems have 2 attack. Yeah, pretty solid. I mean, you do need to draw this card to make Totem Shaman good. But if you do draw this card, Totem Shaman's really, really good. Especially if you recast its battle cry with the Brilliant Macaw. That could also be really solid as well. Moving on, Criminal Lineup. Choose a friendly minion, summon 3 copies of it, overload 2. Just a solid card in general. You can make multiple copies of a giant big evolved minion. You could potentially go Elwyn Boar with this card. It would be very slow Elwyn Boar, to be quite honest, but you could try to do something along those lines. So, you know, I think this card's kind of cool. For 8 mana, getting 3 copies of potentially a big minion if your opponent can't kill it that turn. Could just be game winning in its own right. And then Giga Totem, 1 less for every totem summon in this game. I feel like you could cheese this out turn 5 for like 0 mana relatively consistently if you're able to get the Chisel out and or the Party Favor one. Next, going into Warlock. I could basically sum this up by just saying absolutely and friggin' broken. Wait, which card's a 2-star card? It's too slow? I don't think it's necessarily too slow. Wait, which one? I don't know which one you were talking about. Unless you're talking about this one being too slow, in which case I could see that. I mean, it could be cool late game, but it's a bit weak. But yeah, Warlock actually busted. This card, 1 mana, 1/3, pretty consistently is going to be way stronger than 1/3. This can draw you pretty easily at least like 3 cards. You play Wicked Shipment and this. It's 3 mana, draw 3 at like the worst. So again, freaking insane. Via Library snowballs out of control so fast. I think it should just be give a minion +1/+1 for each imp you control, so it loses 1/+1/+1. That'll make it at least a little bit more balanced. But like every single one of these cards snowballs so hard. Okay, Shadowborn, useless. We're not going to be casting shadow spells. That's useless. Discarding a card, useless. There's like very few discard effects in Warlock right now. They might get more, but it's just kind of meh. would have been really sick in like a Demon Hunter though that discards cards. Anyway, Tome of Tampering. This will be a good meme card, but not really like anything more than that. You get 1-cost copies of a ton of big cards. It's basically like Celestial Alignment just for you. And I guess you discard cards from your hand, so you can discard this, which is fine, right? Like, you have 1 discard synergy, that's good, but I don't know. It feels a little bit forced to me. Next, we have Mischievous Imp, actually broken. Getting 3... infusing 3 in a token deck is so easy. This is basically a turn 4 9/9 every single time. Lady Darkbane, it's fine. Summon 2 1/1 shades. They gain death rattles to cast each of your last shadow spells. I mean, there are some good shadow spells in there, so I mean, I'm not opposed to it. It's just not like particularly broken. I mean, this might go in like a control or Highlander Warlock. I didn't even know this was a card. Summon a 3/5 shadow with taunt. If you minion die this turn, summon another. I mean, this could be good potentially, and like a good token deck, obviously, like a zoo deck that doesn't maybe revolve around imps, or you know, in a shadow-based deck, maybe it could be okay, but I'm underwhelmed with this card. Imp King Reform. Worst case scenario, because infusing is super easy, it's just like, okay, it's a 6/6 that gives you 12 stats minimum, unless you summon even better imps, which will make it even stronger. It's just a really good card. And then moving on to Warrior. Warrior, I think Enraged Warrior could actually be good with some of these cards, but not necessarily like super duper strong. This could be good with some of the charge cards. Speaking of charge cards, not that one, not that one. This one, do that turn 1, do this turn 2. It becomes a 5/3 charge turn 2. Not bad, a lot of early pressure. Anyway, moving on to the Anima Extractor. Whenever a friendly minion takes damage, give a random minion in your hand +1/+1. I mean, it's a 1/4. It's basically a more aggressive version of the Armor Vendor, which is a decent card. This could also be good in like Wild with Risky Skip, unless that card's been banned in Wild. It might have been banned low-key. I'm not actually... I think it was, now that I think about it. So, maybe not in Wild. But even still, there are a couple of other cards that do damage to friendly minions. And if you play this turn 1, they might not be able to kill it immediately because it's got 4 HP. You're able to give minions in your hand maybe like +2/+2, maybe a little bit more. Could be pretty solid. Next, you're going to Conqueror's Banner, reveal a card from each player's deck 3 times. Draw any of those that cost more. This will be better in a more control-style Warlock deck to draw some cards, but not in the tempo one that I think is what we're aiming for here. Right, your minions can't be reduced below 1 HP. They attack a random enemy minion. Like, this is just mass hysteria on steroids. Like, it always attacks an enemy minion. It's not random. Your minions can't lose, but also... how does it really fit? Like, this is just going to be your control card in a tempo warrior deck. Like, you play this in tempo warrior deck, like, oh my gosh, I'm losing the board. Let's just play a 2-mana removal that kills off a decent number of things. Like, this is just gonna be really, really good. Imbued Axe. It's a 3-mana 2/3 weapon, which is decent. Also Infuse 3, which is, I think, gonna be a little bit harder in Warrior because it doesn't have that many tokens. But when your hero attacks, give damaged minions +1/+1. Like, you're just pumping your board up a ton really, really fast. And if it's infused, it's gonna be even faster. Like, this card in a tempo Enraged deck could be nuts. I think Enraged Warrior is going to be the only way you can play Warrior. I don't think Control Warrior is gonna be good at all. Although, they did just get a new pirate, which I did not realize this was a pirate at first. Discover a weapon. If your opponent guesses your choice, get a copy. This is good, though. This is not bad. You don't even necessarily need the weapon, although sometimes it will be nice. You could just like take the cheapest weapon to try to get some of the weapon synergies that pirates have, and then just try to finish your quest quickly and generate some extra resources, I guess. Especially if you're able to generate like this weapon in a pirate deck and snowball a little bit, that could be really, really good. Burden of Pride. Summon 3 1/3 jailers with taunt. If you have 20 or less HP, give them +1/+1. So this can't really be run in a 30-card deck or a 40-card deck. It has to be run in a 30-card deck. And this is assuming you're already falling behind. I think it's much EV for the follow, but like you're already behind, but it's pretty decent stats. Like 3 2/4 taunt minions on turn 4 is not bad, but you have to be less than 20 HP to do it. And if you're less than 20 HP, they probably already have a decent board. Is 3 2/4 taunts enough to like save you? I don't know. I would rather just remove the minions on the board. But then again, maybe you use it more aggressively because you're hitting the enemy minions with your weapons. You're going less than 20 HP by playing aggressively, and then you get 3, 2, 4 taunts. Like, that's not bad. I think this card's a little underwhelming, but not like the worst. Big warrior support. Oh, for big warrior. That's fair. Yeah, this could be good in a big warrior. You're right about that. That's true. Decimator Olgra. Found her. Gain +1/+1 for each damage minion, then attack all enemies. All enemies means face too, right? So like this could potentially do a lot of damage to the face if you have a lot of damaged minions. And it says minions, so it could be your minions or their minions. Like if you play the 4/6 frenzy that does a damage to everything when it's played, and then this, you could potentially do a lot of damage with Olgra. Potentially do a lot of damage with Olgra. It'll be hard to pull off, but when you do, if you could build a deck around it, really good. The Living Blade, at first I was like, this card is gonna be broken. And then I was like, this card might not be that broken. And then I realized if you pump this card up a decent amount, it'll probably be broken. There are also some synergies you could do to switch the attack and HP of a card or of minions in your hand. So it becomes like a 10-4 rush minion. You rush it in real quick and then you have a 10 attack weapon to hit them. Again, not including pumps that you might have in your hand. So just throwing that out there. And now we are on to the neutral cards. We'll kind of speed through these because it's not really that important. And I wanted to finish this in less than an hour and we have 4 minutes left. So Staffer, it's fine. 1 mana, 1/2, pumping HP of stuff in your hand. Actually not bad. Pretty decent tempo card. Makes the rest of your board more sticky. Another totem. Then you return, gain 1 HP. Solid. It can potentially snowball up a little bit. And in a totem deck, you could potentially pump it up. Anonymous Informant, secret. The next secret you costs 0. That's insane. Like, it's not this turn. So you play this turn too, and then just whenever you have a secret, play it for free. It's really strong. Crooked Cook. At the end of your turn, if you dealt 3 or more damage to the enemy hero, draw a card. I think this is going to be a very, very good draw card in more aggressive decks. Maze Guide, going to be very good in Evolved Shaman. Not sure about other decks, maybe in like Arena. Priest of the Deceased, nah, this card's not great. Roosting Gargoyle, Battlecry, you have a friendly beast +2 attack. I mean, this could be okay in like a beast hunter. Like again, you play the 1/1 hunter card. It dies, gives you a 2/1 bat, give it 2 attack. Like that could be okay, but for the most part, I feel like this card's underwhelming. Sketchy Stranger, discover a secret from another class. I mean, anytime you can generate resources, it's pretty good, especially in like Mage, where I think the secrets might genuinely, like the secret build might genuinely be decent. Volatile Skeleton, it itself is a card, not the greatest, but you could still run it if you want in the Volatile Skeleton build. But when it comes to other synergies, pretty good. It's just here because it needs like a card model, I guess. Next is Ashen Elemental. Whenever your opponent draws a card next turn, they take 2 damage. I feel like there are ways where you can make them take a decent chunk of damage on any given turn, but for the most part, I feel like this card is just meh. Like into certain things, it could be strong, but not like hugely in love with this card. But I think it has the potential to be okay. Creepy Painting, after another minion dies, become a copy of it. This could be cool. You can play like this and then like Siphon Soul a big minion, and then it becomes a copy of that giant minion. Could be pretty solid. I think this is more of a control card or like a combo card. Next, we have Dinner Performer. Battlecry, summon a random minion from your deck that you can afford to play. I mean, it's a 3 mana 2/3, so its effect, I mean, its mana efficiency is not great, but if you play this and you're playing like a zoo or aggro deck and you can pull out a 1 or 2 cost minion to just continue flooding the board and thinning your deck, could be okay, but not insane. Forsaken Duster, your opponent's minions cost 1 more. I do like having counterplay to certain things. I really, really do. So we do like this card. Ends a 3 mana 3/4, which is just solid. Next, we have the Innovation Courier. After a card is added to your hand from another class, copy it. I mean, this will be good in Thief, Rogue, and Thief Priest, but I mean, at the end of the day, I don't really see why you would run it. Most of the time, like it's a fine card. It just requires like it's needless setup with potentially minimal payoff. Murloc Holmes, love this card. I think this card from a design standpoint is really cool. Solve 3 clues about your opponent and get copies of them. I just think this card's really cool. 3 mana 3/4, so it's a solid stat line. And then also The ability is just cool and interactive, and if you can get some hard reads, it's fun. It looks like a fun card that I'll probably run in a lot of decks. Prince Renthal, we already know that, game breaking in its own right. Destroying a location with the Demolition Renovator could be good and might be played in like Highlander decks or a one of in normal decks, but it really depends on how strong the locations are and how much people play them. Disposed Soul, Battlecry, if you control a location, discover a copy of a card in your deck. I mean, that's fine. It's 4 mana, 4/5. Most decks will have locations. You could run this card if you want because you discover a copy of a card. You could set up combos with that, which could be nice. Wait, what did he say? Homes would be a lot better if you could just get the cards that you guessed. Yeah, like if each clue was an individual thing, it could be decent. Murlocula, it's a fine, funny card. It's not like particularly good, but in an aggressive, maybe even just Murloc deck,
Golden
could
rare.
pop off a little bit. I'm just saying. Or like in an evolved deck, it's a 4 mana 3/4, but you can make it cost 0 and then just transform it into a 5 cost. Could be solid. Thanks so much for the follow, by the way. Sensitive. Scuttlebutt Ghoul. This is funny to me because there's in League of Legends there's the Scuttlebug or whatever it's called in the river, but I've always called it Scuttlebutt because I just thought that it was a funny, cute little name. So it's funny that Scuttlebutt Ghoul is here. Anyway, Taunt, Battlecry, if you control secrets, I'm going to copy of this. I mean, again, another secret synergy. If you're playing this in a secret mage, which is, I think, the best secret build, or I guess secret hunter. Now I'm thinking about it, secret hunter might also be okay. This could be a good way to help stay alive if you're playing against more aggressive things. Theo, the Mad Duke. Battlecry, discover a card in each player's hand and swap them. Very good. You can give them like a curse. You could also steal a win condition and give them just a bad card in general. Like, this card's just really, really strong. It's actually insane how good that card is. It's just gonna be, I mean, it's gonna be good in control, but it could also be good in like aggro as like a worse Mindrender or Lucia, where you might be able to steal their big removal. Famished Fool, 5 mana, 3/5, draw a card, infuse 4, draw 3. I mean, I think this card could be useful in some situations, like in a control deck, if you're able to like put some minions out there. Might be a good way to draw 3, but it's not like anything special. Might be better in like Arena. Muck Plumber, 5 mana, 5/5, all minions cost 2 more, forces them to remove this card, and it could really mess up combos. I really like this card. I really like the disruption they have with this card. The 3 mana 3/4 that makes their minions cost 1 more next turn, and this card to disrupt combos with minions and stuff. Like, it could just be really, really nice. Like, imagine your opponent plays Celestial Alignment. Boom, you play Muck Plumber. Fuck you, what are you gonna do? All of your minions now cost 3, and then I at least have a 5/5 and I can hit him. Obviously, he can ramp up, but there could be a situation where all I needed to do was like 5 more damage, and now I'm able to do it, I guess. I don't know. Sin Runner, yeah, it's a fine card. 5 mana, 6/5 that destroys a random enemy minion. Could be cool in like Death Rattle synergy stuff. Steam Cleaner, this is going to be the card that beats up on Kazakhstan and Prester Druid and a couple of other decks that randomly generate cards and put them into their deck. So, Steam Cleaner, going to be a cool card, but meta dependent. It's going to be like really good in some matchups and just like a normal 5 mana, 5/5 in others. But I'd normally probably run like 1 copy just in case I go against something like that, unless there are like none in the meta. Stop hyping Celestial Alignment? What do you mean? Muck Plumber is a 2-star card. Okay, yes, it is a 2-star card, but I do like the fact that they have cards that can disrupt. Like, just having cards that can disrupt combos and stuff excite me, because I think, like, hey, maybe there's hope against these uninteractive decks. Stoneborn Accuser. Infuse, gain the battle cry of deal 5 damage, 5 mana, 5/5. For infuse 5, deal 5. That's a lot of 5s. I do think that's 5 5s. Oh my gosh, this actually just went so much deeper. Holy moly. Anyway, I mean, it's not a great card. Probably good in Arena. If you have ways of discovering like a 5-cost card and then wanting to play it, like, it's not bad, but I don't think I'd ever run it in an actual deck. Bog Beast, same thing. It's a cool-ish card, but again, more of an Arena card. Kel'Thuzad, why did they make a card that makes other cards cost 0? I just don't get it, especially in like a Celestial Alignment Druid. This could get very out of hand very quickly. Not a fan. Master Revealer, Rush, Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 copy of another minion in your deck. I mean, you could potentially get some cool combos with this, or you could get like a copy of a big Death Rattle minion. which is pretty cool actually. Like if you're running just a ton of big death rattles, yes, this is a 6 mana card in its own right, which is a bit expensive, but you could potentially get even more value out of it, which could be pretty cool. Red Herring, this card is a 3 mana or 7 mana 3/12 taunt. This card was an absolute chore to get over when I was playing as my aggro decks. It was doable, but like, my god, this was actually so hard to kill. 12 HP is a lot. That's basically like a whole other character. Sin Fueled Golem, infuse 3, gain stats equal to the attack of the infused minions. I mean, again, this is probably more of an arena card, or maybe like one big dude. If there's a way that you could like give him charge or something, maybe he could be an OTK card, but I'm not really sure about that. Maybe you could also pump things up with like conditioning in like in a warrior deck, and then give this even more stats. I mean, it could be cool, but also unsure of how good it'll be. Party Crasher, Battle Cry. Choose an enemy minion. Throw a random minion from your hand at it. I mean, it's interesting. Could be good with like death rattles and stuff, but overall, kind of just a weird card that I would assume is more of an arena card again as late game bomb. Insatiable Devour, Battle Cry, devour an enemy minion, infuse 5. Oh, and gain its stats and its neighbors. This was really, really cool. I saw this card played once or twice in Druid, and it got kind of big. To be fair, I forgot it was a card and didn't play around it very well, so like maybe I would have made it a little bit smaller. But wow, this card turned out to be really cool. Again, probably a really good late game bomb in arena and solid enough in standard. Sire Nathria, it's the free card everybody's gonna get with the new Tavern Pass, and I think that this card is going to just be really, really good in a lot of different classes. Great finisher. And then last, we have the Stoneboard General, which is a good card, really good in Druid. The death rattle is solid. You might be able to get some cool like extra synergies out of it with like this 6 mana 4/4. Summon a 2-cost or a 2/2 copy of this. It has Rush. Summons an 8/8. You can do a lot of cool things with this card. And yeah, that is about it. Overall, we'll go to the tier list real quick. I think Druid's gonna be God tier. I think Demon's gonna be absolute bottom tier. Same with Rogue. I'll put Rogue one above it. I mean, I don't think anything's gonna be unplayable unless you're Warrior, in which, no, I'm kidding. Warrior's probably about here as well. Mage, it'll probably be here. I don't see Mage being like insanely strong. I think Imp Warlock is going to be top tier. I think Hunter is going to be like the top of A tier. Evolved Shaman is also probably going to be S tier. Probably above Druid, to be honest. Paladin, probably it's going to be mid. And then Priest, I feel like Priest will find a way to have one mediocre deck. And I mean, obviously Rogue, I'm talking about just based on new expansion stuff. Obviously normal Thief Rogue is probably going to be strong enough to be higher than bottom tier, so you could put it here. And same with Warrior. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I don't think any of these decks or classes will be absolute garbage unplayable, right? I think that these cards have some chance, but I don't know. I think these are the main 5 classes that'll be good. These will be the 5 main classes that'll be bad. And I guess all of these are fairly interchangeable here. Like, it's not really super specific the order that we're going, but just know that these are going to be the top 5. These are going to be the bottom 5. Paladin might move up 1. Maybe, depending on how strong Pure and Dude Paladin are. So it might look a little bit like this, but this is basically how I think the meta is going to shape up in terms of like either win, not play rate necessarily. I think a lot of people still are gonna like playing Rogue, so it might be up here play rate wise, but I think win rates, it's gonna be something along these lines. These are all going to be 48% or above, and then these are all going to be below 48% win rate classes. And I mean, who knows? Maybe we go back on this, and after like a week into the expansion, I'm perfectly right and I'm a god. Or maybe I'm super wrong and like Enraged Warrior's god tier. I don't know. But yeah, Rogue and Demon Hunter got like nothing. Warrior and Rage Warrior looks interesting. I'm just not sure if it's going to be strong enough. Priest, I think Priest is actually a little bit better than people realize right now, and I think Quest Priest will still be okay. Paladin's a bit of a wild card, and then all of these classes I think are just genuinely strong. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the tier list. This ended up being over an hour long, but I tried to go in depth on basically everything. And this time I had more to talk about because I because I was invited to the theory crafting stream, so I actually got to play with some of the cards, and some of the things that I thought would be strong ended up being a little bit weaker than I thought. Like, I thought the relics would be more here or here, right? And it turns out that the relics were just kind of slow. The demon hunters I played against, I destroyed, and when I tried playing it, it felt really weak. Warlock, I thought Imp Warlock would be a little bit worse, because I was like, imps, they're easy to kill. But no, they were super strong. So it's gonna be a mega bundle for the giveaway. And that reminds me, I'll probably do a giveaway in a video, not this video, because it was an hour long and I didn't talk about it at all. But yeah, this is, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one.